To discuss this and more, we're joined now by Communications Minister Malcolm Turnbull and Deputy Opposition Leader Tanya Plibersek, who both join us from Canberra. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Hi, Lisa.
Malcolm Turnbull, if I can start with you, the electorate was massaged like an elite athlete to warm everyone up ahead of some of the shocks in this budget, but it's been very poorly received by voters. What's gone wrong?
Well, let's see. Time will tell how it's received by voters. Remember, we were elected with a very clear commitment to get the budget back into balance, and that's what we are setting out to do. The tough decisions that have been taken will cut the deficit, Labor's deficits, and reduce debt by over $300 billion within the decade. Now, the interesting thing about Bill Shorten's speech last night was that he showed that he and Labor are in a state of denial. They have got no alternative solutions because they've said, we don't like this measure, we'll oppose this, we'll oppose that. But they haven't got any answer to the fact that our budgetary position is deteriorating unless strong measures are taken. Now, a responsible opposition leader should have said, I don't agree with this measure and that measure, Prime Minister, here are my alternatives.
But the trouble is, Mr Turnbull, you went to the...
is more debt.
The problem is you went to the election, yes, promising to fix the budget deficit, but overriding all of that was no lift in taxes. That was a very clear message to the electorate, and the electorate, it would seem, is extremely and bitterly disappointed that you have broken that promise, and that was something that you went to the election accusing Julia Gillard of doing.
Lisa, overall taxes will be lower. Overall taxes will be lower. There is an increase, obviously, in the tax for people earning over $180,000 a year, the deficit levy, but they were obviously seeking to abolish the mining tax and the carbon tax, and the carbon tax affects everybody. So in net terms, taxes will be lower, but yes, there are some very tough decisions, and I can well understand why people don't like them, but you've got to ask yourself, are you prepared to let the budgetary position to continue to deteriorate so we leave our children and grandchildren with a growing mountain of debt, or are you prepared to rein it in? Now, if Bill Shorten's got two choices. He either says, I would rein it in a different way and here are my alternative measures, or I don't care about debt or deficit, let's just keep on spending and let somebody else worry about it in the future.
All right.
And
Tanya
sadly,
Plibersek,
he's gone down the second route.
OK, Tanya Plibersek, Bill Shorten gave his budget reply last night and he threw down the gauntlet on Medicare, education and pensions, but not a single word on the deficit tax. Will you oppose its passage through Parliament?
Well, our biggest priorities are protecting the health system, protecting pensioners, protecting the family budget, because of course every family puts petrol in the tank every week. We also announced yesterday that we would be protecting young people from some of the cruelest cuts we've ever seen in Australian history.
But will you support the deficit levy?
Well, when we were told about... Well, it's not a deficit levy, it's an income tax increase. When we were told that the income tax increase was going to hit people on $80,000 a year, we were determined to oppose it. Now that it's on people $180,000 a year or up, it's not such a priority for us. We'll make a decision closer to the time, but it's not. Well, it's just not top of our list of priorities. Our list of priorities are Medicare, pensions, petrol, young people.
All right.
And
what about
take on a few of the things that Malcolm said earlier.
The fuel levy wasn't made clear last night.
Absolutely opposing it.
So you are opposing that?
No, absolutely opposing it. It's clearly a broken promise. As you said, Tony Abbott went to the election saying no new taxes and no tax increases. He said no cuts to health, no cuts to education, no change to pensions, no new taxes, no tax increases. He said it as late as the night before the budget, the night before the election, and he's broken every one of those promises. And Malcolm, nobody believes there's an emergency when Tony Abbott's paying rich people $5.5 billion a year to have babies, like up to $50,000 a year. If there's a crisis, why would you cut pensions for pensioners who are on around $20,000 a year to give $50,000 a year to high-income earners, people who are getting $50,000 one-off, more than twice what a pensioner gets in a whole year of struggling to make ends meet. Nobody believes there's a crisis. We've got 3 AAA credit ratings. In fact, tax goes up as a proportion of GDP in your budgets, higher than it was ever under Labor as a proportion of GDP. So with the paid parental leave, the fact that Joe Hockey gave $9 billion to the Reserve Bank and doubled the deficit in the 6 months he was Treasurer, and the fact that you're increasing tax as a share of our economy. And this is a terrible budget. It's a terrible budget for families, but it's also a terrible budget for the economy.
Malcolm Turnbull, if I can ask you, the PM threatened a double dissolution election on Wednesday if this budget wasn't passed through Parliament. Yesterday there was a lot of backpedalling, a lot of talk of negotiation. Does he believe in these changes or not?
Well, of course he does. This is our budget. Now, it's up to Labor and the other parties in the Senate to decide whether they will support them or not. If they seek to frustrate us doing the job the Australian people just elected us to do, then there are all sorts of options. Negotiation to see if a common ground can be found is one, obviously, and that's been going on in the Senate since the Senate was established. And the other alternative is obviously a double dissolution. But I don't think we need to get ahead of ourselves here. We've just had an election and we have a new government with a very clear mandate to get the budget back into shape. And if I can just say, with respect to Tanya, I'm not suggesting that our level of debt is as high as Greece's, for heaven's sake. But the scary thing about the budgetary situation Labor left us is the trend. We had under Labor the fastest growth in government spending and the 3rd largest increase in debt in the whole OECD. So it's not,
Malcolm,
it's
you
not
know the
where we
Australian
are.
economy
It is
is strong.
it is where you are heading us. Well, Tanya, the economy is strong, but it's not strong enough to stand up to more Labor economics. That's for sure.
And Malcolm, why is it that we had a proposal to stop companies profit shifting offshore so that huge international companies pay a tiny fraction of tax here in Australia, and you've stopped that proposal? Why is it that you're actually cutting tax revenue from big mining companies? I mean, do you want ordinary families and pensioners to pay for your decisions, or do you think maybe big international companies that are offshoring their profits should pay their fair share? I mean, it's all about values. You want to kill Medicare, you want to make pensioners pay more, you want to make families pay more. It's not fair.
OK, we're going to have to leave it there. I've just got one last question for you. We know that Parliament has been extremely fiery this week, but Christopher Pyne is alleged to have dropped the C-bomb in Parliament yesterday in reference to Bill Shorten. What do you think he said, Mr Turnbull?
Well, I don't know. I'd be very surprised if Christopher used language of that kind. It's not his nature, but I haven't seen the tape, as it were, so I don't know.
All right.
I wasn't in the room.
Did you hear it, Tanya?
No, I didn't hear him say what he's supposed to have said. I mean, I have seen the video because it's going around on the internet, and I mean, I guess you have to ask Christopher what he said.
Yeah, OK.
But I didn't hear it in the chamber.
All right, we might
Everyone's running for cover.
Everyone doesn't want to put their name to it. Malcolm and Tanya, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Carl.
There's no way Christopher Pyne would have said that. No way in the world.